This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. We come to you regularly with short business episodes, short private equity episodes, interviews with leaders in business and private equity, and sometimes relatively irreverent episodes from daily life. Today, we're following 13 stories that we're watching today. There'll be a mix of business and then some private equity news at the end as well. First, Apple surges and regains the top market spot. It reached a record market cap of $3.6 trillion, is 21% year to date. That's a huge change from where it was just a couple months ago. We're taking the third spot behind NVIDIA and Microsoft, how quick that moment was. We'll also talk later below the 11th story about the top 5 market cap firms, plus Tesla as well. Second, United Health Group is reporting that they're going to have to take a higher charge against profits and earnings over the cyber attack that they faced early this year, the cyber hack that they had. United's down about 2% year to date. It actually has moved in the right direction a lot recently, but it's down a couple percent year to date. And we'll see what this chart's going to look like. Third, Hugo Boss, the clothing line, is taking on the chin today. They're down about 9% year to date, or they're down about 9% today, and they project much, much lower profits for the year. I just did buy Hugo Boss shoes on sale at Nordstrom's. Of course, I have zero fashion sense, but they still, I thought, looked great. But the stock isn't telling the same sign or talking in the same language. Fourth, futures point up after the markets rose yesterday. The market's already open today. They point up today. We'll see if that continues. There's more and more talk of Fed Chairman Powell easing up on interest rates, so we'll see how that goes. Fifth, Macy's again took out of the chin yesterday, down 12% as buyout talks ended. One of the things about Macy's is you could periodically really find something you like at Macy's. They fell way behind in sort of e-commerce and how they deal with e-transactions and logistics. So they're a little bit challenging to work with. I think they've improved some in the last couple of years. But again, Macy's, still people find it not that easy to shop at, struggling. They fell 12% yesterday as buyout talks ended. We'll see if those get back on or not. Sixth, Burberry's fell 15% yesterday. As I discussed earlier, I don't think anybody wears those trench coats anymore. At one point, they were sort of omnipresent. Everybody had those Burberry's trench coats. Now they seem a little creepy. I'm not sure. I don't mean that in a bad way, but they fell 15% yesterday. Seventh, Trump is picking J.D. Vance as his VP. J.D. Vance is a fascinating character. He's the author in the book Hillbilly Elegy, which is a fascinating story of growing up poor, fighting addiction, getting past these things, developing a life. Very, very smart guy. He sometimes says things like he was talking yesterday about, oh my goodness, his pro-life stance. And part of what he said was almost cringeworthy. But outside of that, I think he's a really bright guy, a really gifted guy. He's like one of my closest friends who's also could have been the author of Hillbilly Elegy. Very, very bright. And sometimes that says things you wish weren't said. Although I'll tell you, to be honest, my friend doesn't say things that were as cringeworthy as some of the things that Vance said about abortion. And it is what it is. I believe in reasonable limits on abortion. Everybody's thoughts on that are different, but I'm more of a woman should have the right 12 weeks in to still have an abortion, etc. Pick a date. I don't have an absolute pro-life or absolute 7 month stance either, but somewhere in between. But some of Vance's comments on it I didn't love. Not to dive too deep in it. Eighth, in the equal idiocy sort of world yesterday, Joe Biden is set to announce rent control concepts, inflation, rent control increases, limits on your ability to increase rents. These are the kind of policies that always have disastrous consequences. They cause people not to build, and they add to the supply shortage. These are really dumb policies. So as dumb as some of the things that Vance said yesterday were, this is also incredibly stupid. The idea of rent controls, annual rent increases. But these are like all these stupid policies that ultimately lead people to have less housing and higher prices. So just an absolutely dumb idea. I can't even believe who advises him anymore. I really don't. It's a populist thing. Oh, we're going to have rent controls. It sounds good for a moment. There's an old adage that when your leg first feels wet, it feels good until you realize that somebody's pissing on you. It's some of these populist policies are very much the same. They feel good until you realize it's just somebody pissing on the market, and it's really dumb. Ninth, Bitcoin jumped back to nearly 64,000. Again, I can never really predict where Bitcoin is going. It's up about 10-50% over the last week. 10th, Lucid Motors dropped 15% yesterday. Again, Tesla sells about 1.8 million vehicles a year. Rivian about 55,000 vehicles a year. Lucid around 10,000. Rivian is backed by Amazon and Volkswagen. Lucid is backed by the Saudis. It's sort of like the Live tour of electric vehicles. They've got a big deep pocket backer. 11th, in terms of the 5 largest companies by market cap, Apple's back to number 1 at 3.6 trillion about. Microsoft number 2 at 3.37 trillion. NVIDIA number 3 at right about 3.16 trillion, simply amazing. Google number 4, 2.3 trillion. Amazon is 5 at around 2 trillion. Tesla's at about 800 billion. It's recovered dramatically from where it was just a month ago, and it's currently 10th in market cap. The 12th story we're following today, BlackRock is up to 10.6 trillion in assets under management. It's hard to love Larry Fink, their CEO, but he's done a good job, and he's a very bright person. He's very gifted. BlackRock's up about 1.3% year to date. Blackstone and in BlackRock has a market cap of $122 billion. Blackstone, the largest PE alternative fund management firm, has about a trillion in the assets under management. About 10% of the assets that BlackRock has under management, but has a much larger market cap. We'll talk about that next. 13, the 3 largest alternative asset PE funds. Blackstone, number 1, it's up 1.1% year to date, 160 billion in market cap. KKR is up 39% year to date, market cap of 105 billion. And then finally, Apollo Global Management up 31.45% year to date, and market cap of nearly 70 billion. So those are the 3 largest private equity asset managers, et cetera, et cetera. That's all we've got for you today. Super excited to record today with Oracle Health and Seema Verma, brilliant leader there. God bless Dr. Feinberg and team at Oracle Health for bringing Seema to the Becker's Healthcare podcast today. And, always a pleasure. Thank you for listening to the Becker Private Equity Business Podcast. I'm always thrilled to hear your suggestions on ideas and episodes and topics. Please feel free to text Scott Becker always at 773-766-5322 or reach out to me on any of the other platforms that you follow stuff on. Thank you very, very much.